Ready? Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So thank you for coming out. I know the weather obviously isn't that good, but let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Okay. Okay, so, thank you for coming. As mentioned, this is a meeting on the effluent water for the golf course. Today, it's over a year and a half since the last time we had a town hall meeting on it. We do have more information. I want to introduce Dallas Baker, Director with the county, and John Ross, Director with the county. They will talk about the system. They will answer all your questions, along with Justin Hartshorn, our Superintendent of Golf and Maintenance. Justin has worked with them and the consultants that the county mentioned over a year ago that they were going to bring in to look at the possibility of the system and how we would put this all together. So we did do this once before. We're going to do the same type of format. I'm going to ask John and Dallas to talk to you a little bit about what's going on, and then Justin, and then we will answer your questions. Okay? Now, some people did send me questions, and I do appreciate it. The team did put together answers to the questions, but feel free to come up, ask your questions like we did last time, and you'll get the answers. All righty? All right, so with that, John?
How's that work? Okay, so we met however long ago it was. I don't remember the date exactly. About a year ago. Anyway, and discussed at that point in time the concept of, spraying treatment plant effluent on your golf course. And since that time, we did in fact have the opportunity to hire a consultant, an irrigation consultant, who went out and looked at the irrigation system, identified what needs to be replaced, and gave us a sketch plan of what they're proposing. So the big difference here is we now know how many sprinkler heads we're going to put out there. We know how many feet of pipe go in the ground. We know how many, where all we're going to get, what we have to do in order to build the irrigation system. That came out to about $2.8 million. And in addition to that, we're going to have to get our wastewater effluent from the treatment plant out here to the golf course so that they can spray it on. So we're looking at this project being somewhere in the $3.2 million category. It's going to be a few $100,000 worth of pipeline and pumps to get it out here. And so as a part of that, we now, we have our best estimate at this point of what it's going to cost. Now, do I know this is exact? No. I mean, certainly there's, economic factors. Right now, contractors are extremely busy. Sometimes contractors get extremely slow. Those can raise and lower prices seasonally, annually. So, but our best estimate is right now this $3.2 million. The irrigation system that he laid out gives us a little bit of flexibility. We can decide whether we want to irrigate the rough areas. Do we want to irrigate in the driving range? Those are things that we could take away or leave in, whatever we decide we want to do. And it does give us some flexibility on the pricing of the project. But I think we're pretty satisfied with the $3.2 million that we're going to be facing. In looking at our capital program, the next project that we had online to be constructed is replacement of our belt filter press over at the Ocean Pines wastewater treatment plant. That project itself is probably around $3.5 million. So we're looking at a total here of $6.8 to $7 million of construction work that has to take place. What does that mean for your bills? Okay, well, to do about that 6.8 or what are we at? Where about $6.8 million worth of work, your quarterly bill would be raised by about $16. Okay. Now, at the same time, back in 2002, we constructed a plant addition down there, and in 2022, that plant addition debt service will be paid off, and so therefore, that debt service is approximately $12 a quarter. So you're looking at about between $4 and $5 per quarter to do both the belt filter press project and the irrigation system on the golf course. So that's the net impact to doing both of these projects. Now the belt filter press just has to be done. So the question would become whether we're going to add the irrigation system at the same time or not. Before you start asking questions, let's just keep in mind what we're doing here, okay? The wastewater that we get down at the wastewater treatment plant is your public potable water after it's gone through your sinks and bathrooms and things like that. We then clean that water up and discharge it out to the river. But ultimately, what we're getting down there is biologically tainted water. We use a biological process to treat that wastewater. It is discharged out to the river, and it's very clean when it goes out to the river. Our limit is 3 milligrams per liter of total nitrogen, which is extremely low. And in discharging to the river, we're basically still discharging mostly everything that you have in your drinking water, minus the biological aspect of it. So we do the biological treatment. So I saw quite a few of the questions had to do with things like salt and chemicals and things in the water. If those chemicals are not in your raw water, they are not going to be in our effluent. If they are in the raw water, and most of those chemicals, most of those minerals and things are not taken out by a biological wastewater treatment plant, so they would be in the wastewater when it gets into our plant. It was in the water when it came up out of the ground, and it's also in the wastewater when it goes out to the stream. We are removing mostly biological waste in our wastewater treatment plant. So, I know there was also some questions about salt. There's no salt really to speak of in the raw water. There's no salt used in the treatment plant. Where we had a problem was over at Lighthouse Sound when we did a similar project like this where we're spraying the golf course effluent, but over at Lighthouse Sound, they have individual water softeners in everybody's house. And of course, those water softeners discharge salt into the wastewater treatment plant. That salt does not get taken out in the wastewater treatment plant, so it passes through. When they go to spray that on the golf course at Lighthouse Sound, they do have problems with that because they had to make sure they used grass that was capable of growing in some amount of salted water. We don't have that issue here because there's very few, if any, softeners. There might be a few softeners around. I don't know. Just some people have to polish up their water at their house, which is possible. But generally speaking, that is not going to be an issue here. Our process, where we would go from here is, and I've had these discussions with your general manager, is that, we are not under orders to do this project. We are not under any stress to do them. We're looking at an opportunity to reduce the amount of nutrients that we're discharging out to the river. Yes, we're discharging very clean water out to the river, but it's not zero, okay? If you don't discharge it at all, that's zero nutrients going out to the river. And even though we're very low on nutrients, we are not down to zero. The second benefit that we get out of this is when your golf course needs additional irrigation water, which obviously they don't need today, they have wells that they can pump out of those wells and use that to irrigate the golf course. Those wells are pulling water out of the same aquifer that your drinking water comes from. So by reducing the amount of water taken out of the ground, could be some 200,000 gallons daily, that's water that will stay in your aquifer, available for drinking water. And as if you pull too much water out, there is that tendency to draw salt water back in because you do live right next to a body of water that does contain salt. So the benefits we get are the nutrient reductions into the river, the conservation of water out of your aquifer, and a new golf course irrigation system. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to hit on.
Timing, if we go ahead with it.
That's a little bit up in the air right now. The next bond issue that the county plans on doing is in 2022. if we got approval, and well, I'm not talking about approval, ultimately what I'm going to get from is a letter of support of some sort from the board that they say, yes, they are in fact in support of the project. They want us to move forward. And if we get something like that, we would immediately look to do some sort of interim financing, I would think, because the bond money probably won't be available till mid next year. In the meantime, we could get the design completed. We could get a contractor selected, and they ideally like to do these irrigation systems over the winter because the golf course has a lot less traffic on it. So they're going to be interruptions to the golf course as a part of doing this. So in order to meet a schedule where we could potentially get it done in the winter of 2022, we would look at getting the design done by the end of this year or in the spring of next year, and then get a contractor lined up late spring of next year to early summer, and then have him start November and December of 2022.
So also, John, how many other, I know you mentioned one golf course, but how many other golf courses in this area are you doing this with? And you just spray in the woods, or the woods and the course?
Of course, what really brought us this project was the work we did over at Eagles Landing, over at Eagles Landing Golf Course. There we have the Mystic Harbor wastewater treatment plant. We were looking for some place to get rid of the effluent over there. We did not want to dump it into the bay. And we were able to work out an agreement with Eagles Landing. They have been spraying on Eagles Landing pretty regularly now for 2 years. We have been working at Riddle Farm from the day they were born, that were done. The first homes at Riddle Farm, everything has always been sprayed at Riddle Farm. Initially, they sprayed only 4 or 5 holes in the back 9. Now they're spraying all 36 holes over there. And we can't give them enough water. They run out of water and need to supplement that water with groundwater themselves. River Run currently does not spray on their golf course, but they spray in the woods beside their golf course. With this next phase of expansion with River Run, they will be moving out into the golf course to spray, because what we have lined up now is not going to be enough. Lighthouse Sound, I did mention, they spray in 4 or 5 holes in the back. They have been able to deal with their salt issues, and they have been getting things done. So, and that's been working now for, well, as long as I've been here 20 years. So it was started a couple years before I got here.
Is there a maximum amount of water we have to take? And the question for Justin also, and then is it that we're going to get too much water, or how does that work?
You can't take all of our water. We discharge somewhere in the neighborhood of 700,000 or 800,000 gallons a day out of the wastewater treatment plant. I think from looking at the water records, 200,000, 250,000. So basically, however much you want, you can have. It's going to be your decision.
Right, so there's no maximum
No.
that we have to take.
No.
And it doesn't have to be sprayed all months, right?
No, as a matter of fact, you probably during the winter will have to stop spraying. Sometime in December, maybe November, December area, maybe to pick it back up again in April, March or April, because the whole concept of spraying on the golf course is instead of our nutrients being taken out in a treatment plant, the nutrients are being taken up by the grass. And so when you grow grass, that's going to take the nutrients out of the wastewater, which you'll need to grow the grass. So in the winter months, there's no grass really growing, so there's no nutrients being uptaken, so they really don't want you to spray the effluent in the winter.
Okay, so with that, I do want to open it up for questions and comments. Mike. So I'm going to ask, just like the board meeting, just come up, please state your name and address. If you can keep it to under 5 minutes, so we're around 5 minutes, any questions and comments, that'd be great. Ready? Josh, turn it on. Okay, sorry about that, Judge. Okay, so, yeah, Dallas, I'm sorry.
Just real quick. Sorry, Dallas Baker, Director of Public Works. Just real quick, I wanted to recognize Commissioner Bertino and Commissioner Bunting, and also our Director of Environmental Programs, Bob Mitchell, here in the So, thank you.
Okay, so questions, comments, please step up. State your name, address first.
I'm Don Jenkins, live at 402 Charlotte Court. I just have one simple question. The nutrients you're speaking of, is that mainly nitrogen? Okay, that's all I want to know.
John, did you mention what particles per million or whatever, or how safe this stuff is?
Our effluent standard for nitrogen is 3 milligrams per liter out into the water at the effluent of the plant. If you remember the Bay Restoration Program where everyone pays that $5 per month or whatever it is, their goal for publicly owned wastewater treatment plants was 4 milligrams per liter. So we're already performing below what the goal was on the Bay Restoration Program, which is very unique. I mean, I don't know of any wastewater treatment plants that perform the way this plant does. It's extremely good, but again, it's just not zero, and it'll never get to zero.
Colette Horn, 35 Sundial Circle. This question is for Justin. How are these nutrients going to affect the work that you do, the chemicals that you need to use and so forth?
Yeah, so we do a lot of soil testing. I typically do at least 2 tests a year, so I do get reports on the nutrients we are dealing with within the soils. So I can make adjustments according to what I'm seeing in there. So I can vary levels of what I'm putting out, either reduce or increase if we need to offset any type of nutrient fluctuations that we are seeing within the soil. So it's very manageable. And in my experience, I did spray the effluent out at Glen Riddle for 3 years previously, and we had no issues, and it wasn't really any drastic change to our fertility operations. So it's certainly very manageable. We'll just be doing a lot of soil testing and monitoring just to make sure we catch anything in case something would come up that we notice.
Justin, just real quick. I know this is the way it was at Eagles Landing. I don't know if this is the way it is here. Okay, in Eagles Landing, we're spraying effluent on their golf course, and they're still going to come in behind us and add nutrients to the soil because our nutrient level in the wastewater at Eagles Landing is so low that we still need to add nutrients in order to grow the grass. Yes, that is true. We're going to continue running the maintenance program that we are pretty much running on the golf course. So we are not going to be looking at drastic changes to how we are currently maintaining the golf course.
Yeah, I guess the other part of my question is, would it affect your costs with chemicals and testing and so forth?
No, it really wouldn't. We already kind of have our plan laid out, and the testing I'm already doing really isn't going to change much. I still keep an eye on what's going out there and what we're seeing in the soils. So it has a minimal impact on the budget I will be spending on the golf course.
So Justin, another question, I guess this one's for you, is how much do we pull from the aquifer now? Are we using well water, and what would this do?
Yeah, so currently each year in the reports, I think last year we used somewhere around 12 million gallons of irrigation water. I think the previous year was pushing around 20 million gallons. It depends on the weather from year in, year out. But obviously we'll have more effluent than we will be able to use coming from the plant. So we could drastically reduce what we are pulling out of the well here. And we're only irrigating in dry spells. So it's nice to get this rain, and we will collect rainwater in the ponds and it fills them. But when it's dry and we're watering a lot, we are drawing a lot of water out of that well. Also, it's replenishing a lot of the irrigation we're putting out when we're going through dry spells.
Okay, because some people think we're just taking it from the pond here, but we're definitely taking it from the... Okay, sorry.
I want to thank Dallas. I'm Jerry Looters. I live at 109 Bramblewood, and you guys came out and fixed an issue I had with the sediment, remember? So 2 things. One, I know you're saying you're doing biologic removal, mediation with the water going out, but I've seen a lot of people wash their paintbrushes going in the drains and things like that, and there's quite a few people that have softeners. I have a non-salt softener in my system and a filtration system I put in because of the the dirt I was seeing coming into my water heaters and stuff. So that took care of that. But there is some chemical issues with the water. It is there.
Sure. I mean, there's nothing really we can do about that. You know, we do have regulations. You're not supposed to draw clear paints and things like that. But fact of the matter is, you know, you're mixing it with, especially during the summer, you're mixing it into 1 million gallons of wastewater daily. Okay, so if you put a gallon of paint in and you're mixing that into 1 million gallons of wastewater on a daily basis, and then it goes to the plant and it mixes in with the existing wastewater that they already have there, and yes, you can't stop that. Okay, there's just very little you can do about that.
So the other issue, it's kind of a question, would there be a water problem here if we didn't do this and the amount of water that they had to draw to keep the golf course? Would our aquifer be in danger if those things kept going?
You know, I'm just gonna tell you that I'm a civil engineer. I do know that Bob Mitchell's back there in the back, and maybe let him just come out here for a minute, because he does know a lot of the state plans and things like that are going on. Yeah. And Bob can give you maybe a little more background on that item.
I think is what the word we're looking for is resiliency. I think we want to make best use of our aquifers. It is subject to the whims of the environment. Our rainfall, it is replenished with rainfall. It's unconfined, which means it's the superficial aquifer. It's the top layer. It's not a confined layer, but we want to keep it and make best use of that resource as possible. Right now, I mean, we're taking on additional subdivisions. We're also taking on their water appropriations permits as well. When we take those on, we take those acreage in. That acreage and that water below that, we have to increase our appropriations permit for the Ocean Pine system accordingly. We also are in a water management area. There's only 5 in the state. One of them's here. It goes from Shingle Landing Prong all the way down to Gunpoint Road, and it encompasses the entire Ocean Pine subdivision. That water management area is for saltwater intrusion. This cap of water that we're sitting on below our superficial aquifer, which is our Pleistocene or Columbia aquifer, that's a hedge against saltwater intrusion. We want to keep as much water in that cap as possible. This helps us do that. We don't want to rob from ourselves. We want to keep this as plentiful as possible, but we need that to push against the saltwater from coming in and starting to come towards our wells and come and degrade our aquifer. That's basically a physical nature. It's pushing against the salt water. So it's about short line, and we've also considered this in our water resources element, which is a amendment to our comprehensive plan. We want to make best use of our aquifers. That's why we're interconnecting. That's why John is interconnected to water systems here at Riddle. We've interconnected the water systems down to 611. Redundancy and resiliency. That's basically, we're making best use and best energy of connecting all of our systems. That's what we all use.
Thanks, Bob.
Now, just one thing I'd like to add to that is, a lot of times government falls into the category of being very reactive. And in this case, we are trying to be proactive and protect those resources.
One little follow-up. Okay. So if we are being proactive, is there any thought to getting off a well system and going to like every large area, like drawing water from a river and cleaning it and getting off the wells, the aquifer systems?
I'll say, I can tell you that the water we pull out of the ground is significantly cleaner than what we would draw off the surface.
More, but there's more water there too. Agreed.
Yeah, but you've also got to worry about the existing nutrients in the surface water, the salt that's there, the desalination. You end up with a much more expensive process trying to treat the surface water than you do out of, the water that's been down there has been treated over thousands of years and filtered through that soil matrix to get out those chemicals, and it's had time to have the microbes eat away basically the bad stuff that was in there, and it's cleaner and it's less expensive to treat.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said this at the last meeting, but one of the biggest amenities you have here in Ocean Pines is your water supply. I mean, to imagine that we can pull, 2 million gallons of water out of the ground We add some chemicals to adjust the pH. All we do is, we get the pH up to be more of a neutral, and we chlorinate it, and that's all we do. And that water is, to go through a full-blown water treatment plant with flocculation, sedimentation, filtration, all those steps is an exceptionally expensive thing to do. And the water system that you have here is very robust and very economical to operate. And today, well, and this helps to preserve that. It'll extend that time before we need to look for different water sources, because now all of a sudden you've relieved your aquifer of 200,000 gallons a day. Okay.
Hi, Catherine Ferrucci, 25 Brookside. You mentioned the golf course project would be about $3.5 million. So what's a life expectancy of that equipment and the system that you're talking about installing?
Well, I think what's here has been here since 1970.
Yes.
When was the golf course built? So it's lasted 50 years. It's certainly seen you've gotten your money's worth out of the irrigation system that's here. I'm sure there's been improvements made over the years.
Some.
Ultimately, this is you're looking at a 50-year, facility here. There's what you have has served you well for a long time. Huh?
How much is that, if you extrapolate that out, how much a year? So it's not very much money over.
No, over a 50-year period, no.
And John, you mentioned how much on the water bill a quarter? $3, $5?
Yeah, we're looking at a total net change of $5
Per quarter.
per quarter. So it's whatever, $1.67 a month. Sure.
Yep. Amy.
Amy Pack, 109 Whitehorse. My comment is I'm in favor of this project. I see it as an environmental and aquifer protection project. It could be argued that clean drinking water and a clean bay are our most valued amenities here in Ocean Pines. The demographics are changing. The pressure on our aquifer is increasing. Drilling more wells is not a responsible solution. The cost of a new water treatment plant, if we would need that because we destroy this aquifer, is significant. There's some estimates that it's $13 million, plus the cost of environmental problems with the filtration discharge. Using effluent will help protect water we drink in the bay. I don't see this as a golf course issue. Irrigation heads need work regardless of effluent. Maryland could become one of the jurisdictions that puts into law that the lowest quality of water must be used to irrigate. So I feel that it's prudent to act now while it's voluntary. In 2012, Laurel Hills Golf Club, which is in Fairfax, Virginia, got their costs funded by the Virginia Department of Environment and the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, as that project in Fairfax, Virginia, stopped effluent entering the Potomac River and eventually the bay. In our new $1.2 trillion infrastructure deal, $238 million is provided to the EPA Chesapeake Bay program. There is a projected increase of $3 million to the $87.5 million the program was funded in 2012. My question is, what is Ocean Pines doing to get grant money?
We have been successful in getting grant money. We just got $1.5 million for a sewer system over on Lewis Road. That was through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We have not found out how we get this money yet. We certainly have our eyes, we're keeping our things track of what we can find. We're providing you what we believe is the worst case, in that it's $5 per quarter, because we know we can go to the bond issue and get it. We know we can do it for $5 per quarter. Can we go and get grant money and do it? I would certainly think so. It's a great environmental problem. I would think there are a number of places we can look. The only thing that we have to keep in mind is this, okay? When you look at your sewer bill, you do not pay what they call the bay restoration charge. The reason you don't pay that bay restoration charge, which is $5 per month, is that what it is? Is it 5 a month or is it 15 a month? I don't know. It's either 15 a quarter or 15 a month. I don't remember which. But anyway, you don't pay that bay restoration charge because you have produced high quality effluent. The 3 milligrams per liter going out to the river is considered high quality effluent, and you have never used federal grant money to build your wastewater treatment plant. So does moving your effluent into a spray irrigation on the golf course, is that considered the treatment plant? We don't know. Okay, if that funding is available, we will absolutely go for it. But we do not want to lose our exemption from bay restoration in the meantime, which would be another $15 that would be added onto your bill to save us $5. So yes, I agree. We need to look at it. We've been looking at some of the new projects and programs that are coming out. As I said, we've already been working for some of them in other areas of the county. We'll absolutely look at it. We need to make sure we have a project first, because we obviously don't want to spend the effort and time to go after a grant and then have the project fall down. But yes, I totally agree with that.
Bob?
Bob Long, 32 Newport. Justin, what disruption will it be to the golf course during the installation of the project?
Yeah, so irrigation construction has come a long way. So you're going to see a little more trenching and disruption in your rough areas and on the outskirts of the property, because that's typically where they run main lines now. So you're going to have trenches, but as far as all your fairway heads, a lot of that stuff they will bore. So you're just going to have pilot holes to install your heads in each one of those sections. So it's not like they're going to be digging up, every inch of fairway, running lines everywhere. The process has come a long way, and we have very sandy soils. So it's easy to bore and run a lot of lines underground. So there will be, throughout construction, you're going to have several holes closed and sections closed during, just so they can get the work done. But as far as surface disruption on the golf course, there will be some, but not, it won't be a huge impact, on the golf course. It's very slick now the way they actually are installing.
And I can tell you, when they did Eagles Landing, they never closed the golf course. They may have routed around some of the holes during periods of time. But again, they started construction in November, finished it in March. So there's less traffic on the golf course at those times anyway. And I'll tell you, some of them were able to plow things in where they basically ran the pipe in and they have it almost backfilled. There's places like, those guys, if you hire a contractor who's really experienced at doing golf course irrigation system, and they are a specialty contractor, and we will want to try to get one of those specialty contractors. They are very good at doing it. There were some places it just, a sprinkler head just showed up. You don't have any idea how they got it there. It just showed up. And I've never seen that kind of construction before, and I was very impressed.
Yeah, it's a pretty efficient system putting it in. So.
We had a program where we were redoing a number of the holes year by year, which kind of got put on holds maybe 10 years ago. So the thought of, with all the disruption, you could pick that up at the same time. That's kind of off the table from what you've said.
As far as what's out there now.
Yeah, well, we had a program where we were going hole by hole. We got about half of it done, and it's now not happening. I thought, gee, if you're going to tear up the whole course, you might as well
So
pick that up. But
I understand what you're saying, Bob. We don't have that program going forward right now.
and it doesn't seem appropriate.
But this is separate, though.
Yeah, okay.
That's something at a budget level and the board and all that, that's totally separate from this.
And I believe our goal here is to do the course, 1 to 18, get it all done. And it'll all be new irrigation, it'll all be new piping, all new irrigation heads. And, that was the plan that we put together at this point.
Slobodan Trendik, 20 Drawbridge Road. Mr. Baker, I want to congratulate you on your appointment. Mr. Ross, just to revisit your earlier comment. You mentioned that this is not really a must-do project. And we're talking about 3.2 million plus contingency, 10%. You can round it to 3.5 million. Then you mentioned another project which could push us to the neighborhood of around $7 million. And the lady earlier read her statement and talked about the national infrastructure, critical infrastructure, the condition that it's in, the amount of money it's going to take to rebuild. So back to looking at our water and wastewater system, could you spend a few minutes and just tell us, I don't know how many members here are really golf focused and how many are just general members, but could you tell us a little bit about the shape that our water and wastewater system is in, the condition it's in? Are we looking at some major capital expenditures in the next, foreseeable future, 5 years out or 10 years out? And the overall, financial impact. Going to a bond market, it's a great idea. Interest rates are almost, basement. But it sounds like that's not going to be an issue for you. Obviously, you're going to have a recovery fee that's going to go against our bills. But if you can spend some time just telling us in general, how good the system is, how much money is it going to take, that's going to give us a feel for the overall picture. Thanks very much.
No problem. Right now, you have a wastewater treatment plant that's capable of treating 2.5, potentially 2.6 million gallons a day with maybe some additional paperwork. Last year, our average daily flow was around 800,000 gallons, between 800,000 and 900,000 gallons a day. We obviously see bumps in the summer, but from a standpoint of capacity, for the foreseeable future, you do not have any issues as far as expansion of the plant. So you're basically running around below 50% capacity. I moved here 20 years ago. Before that time, I was in the consulting engineering business. The one thing that this last 20 years has taught me is getting the wastewater from this end of the treatment plant to this end of the treatment plant is the easiest part of the process. What happens is you still have that physical thing where you have no destruction of matter. So what you take out of the treatment plant coming up here has to go somewhere. That's the sludge handling, that's the solids handling. And that's what I've talked to you about prior, about the addition, the replacement of the belt filter press. That's what takes the water out of the sludge. That's what dries into a compacted material, and then we can haul it away to the landfill for ultimate disposal. So from the process perspective, beginning to end, there will always be little things to take care of, but the tankage is all there, the motors are all there. Yes, we may have to go in, and we just finished this year replacing the aeration system in one of our largest treatment tanks down there. We just this spring replaced the aerator on the big 1 million gallon per day process, the one we built in 2002. So, other than routine, how do you want to say, we do capital things in our annual budget, and we do capital things in our long-term capital budget, pretty much divided by how much money we have to spend. Okay, if we can do this in our operating budget, we try to do it. I don't see, once we get the solids handling side of it done, the bonding side of it is going to be taken care of for a while. A few years ago, I don't know if you remember, we ran a new pipeline down the one lane in Ocean Parkway. We had the one lane of Ocean Parkway blocked off for I don't know how long, and that pipeline made a huge difference in all the pump stations on the north side. So the north side is pretty much taken care of as far as the pump stations are concerned. We redid Station B, which is out near Whitehorse Park. We redid Station A. You can see over at F here over on the across the street where we put siding on it, and we made it look like a little bit nicer because it's so open in there. So we're in pretty fair shape as far as the pump stations are concerned. This year, we will be completing upgrading of all the alarm systems in our pump station. It used to be all the alarms in our pump station went over to the wastewater treatment plant, and because the wastewater treatment plant is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if they had a problem with one of our pump stations, they would then pick up the phone and call the operator of the pump station. Well, with all the improvements that we made, the operators of the pump station, when there's a malfunction at the pump station, they dial the cell phone number of the operator who's carrying it. They then go directly from their home to the pump station. The people at the treatment plant aren't even involved anymore. So we're making improvements all the time on those kinds of things. And this year, we will have completed all the 24 or 25 pump stations in Ocean Pines will all be done. Water system, as far as we're concerned, I think the only issue that we have long-term on the water system is at some point in time, we need to talk about additional elevated storage. The wells are in good shred. They also now are tied into our SCADA system. The wells operate just fine. We just rehabilitated the North Tower last year. It was last year, I guess, where they had the North Tower down. We actually found holes in the bottom of that tank, which have now been repaired, and we're good for the next 25 years there. But a system that's serving 2 million gallons per day of water during the summer probably ought to have more than 750,000 gallons of storage. Now, we make up for that a little bit because we have 5 wells. So if we have a failure of 1 well, we still have 4 wells that can be pumped. But I mean, there's been a lot of work done over the last few years, and it's paid big dividends because things now work pretty well. There's always ongoing problems with the utility, but I mean, the big things are very much on the way to being well under control.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Mike Daly. I live in Mumford's Landing Road. I just have a comment. It's one thing I know about is municipal projects. And the longer you wait, the more it will cost you, without question. You kick it down the road for 3 years and you'll be back here and it'll be double that 3.5 million. Trust me.
Okay, thank you.
Don Jenkins again, but without getting too far into the design, would your plan remove the existing system, parts of the existing system, or would you just abandon it in place when you put the new system in?
I expect we'll abandon it. I expect it will be abandoned in place.
Okay.
I mean, we may pull the heads out, but the pipes certainly would not come back out.
Just PVC pipe down
Yes,
there
just-
now, right?
Or polyethylene or PVC, one or the other, yeah.
Okay.
My name is John, and the last name's Mazook. I live on 25 Heron Isle Court. And out on those canals, in the dead zones, when the water gets warm, we get cyanobacteria, which is not good for, I don't know if you've ever seen it, it's the green slime that'll build up all over. I was wondering, do you have that problem here on the golf courses?
We haven't seen it.
How about that? Because most of the reason, as I understand, is water runoff from the ground, from the fertilizers and the grass clippings gets in there. And that contributes to the bacteria. And the bacteria is not good for any of the fish or clams or crabs or anything there. And I was just wondering, which we could stop it there too, just whatever you were doing.
Joe Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road. Who's going to own and or maintain this system?
I had a little discussion today actually with our county attorney, and I believe if it's bonded by the county, it will need to be owned by the county. So what I would expect is, and what we did at Eagles Landing was, and we made this agreement with the town of Ocean City, was they gave us easement over top of their golf course to install the irrigation system. Then we had a memorandum of understanding with them that said, okay, if you install it, we will operate it. And there's a lot of details in there about what happened, but ultimately I would expect this will be county-owned pipe. It will be installed in easements under the golf course, and we can have it written that once the bond expires, the easement's going to expire. I mean, we really don't want it. Okay.
Well, once what bond expires?
Excuse me?
Once the bond is paid off?
We could have the easements extinguished at that point.
So which that might be what, 20, 25 years? What's the bond?
We base everything on a 15-year bond.
So in the meantime, the Ocean Pines Association is going to be asked to grant the county an easement running all through our golf course.
Yes.
Okay. You know, I have no concerns at all about safety or anything else, health with spraying this water, none whatsoever. This water we produce is from the cleanest in the state. I mean, it looks like tap water when it comes out. It's a practical matter. One of my concerns is there's a lot of talk about the aquifer. So we're taking water from this Pleistocene aquifer that kind of runs from here up through to New Jersey. And it's a pretty big aquifer. We're down at the end of it, I presume, near the end. But the water is some of the best in the United States of America when it comes to drinking water. My concern is not for areas outside of Ocean Pines. My concern is Ocean Pines. And as we expand our water supply system outside of Ocean Pines, a mistake that was made years ago, I believe, we run the risk of dealing with an expensive water treatment system, as was suggested here earlier. So if we just accept your numbers of $200,000 a day saved from taking from the aquifer for 6, 8 months, whatever, it's not for an entire year. Less days when you can't spray because it's raining and so on. Okay, what that total is, I don't know. But what I do know is, and history proves it, the county is relentless in promoting development. And I'm concerned that 200,000 is going to disappear like that when development starts again. It could start anytime, big time. I'm just worried because I've been watching this for over 30 years, been pretty involved in it, and I'm really concerned. For example, we ran a connection, I believe Riddle Farms draws water from an aquifer that has a lot of iron in it, and they have to treat their water. And my understanding is that treating the water is as expensive to drink, is as expensive almost as treating raw sewage. We built a water line from our supply system under the creek to Riddle Farms. We didn't, the county did. Have they ever been using any of our water?
Excuse me?
Does Riddle Farms receive any of our water?
Occasionally, yes.
Yes, okay.
They had a project recently where they had to we had to replace their flow equalization tank at their wastewater treatment plant. So we took their water plant offline for that duration so that we would reduce the impact on their wastewater treatment plant. Then once that project is done, we're getting it back up again.
But it's not being used on a regular basis, though. Okay, because it's supposed to be just for an emergency.
It can go both ways. I mean, if we
I
ever had an issue getting water to the south side of Ocean Pines, all the wells are in the north. So Riddle could send water over this direction.
All right, thank you. You guys do a great job with that plant over there. My concern is expansion, and that $200,000 that we're going to supposedly save for $3 million is going to go overnight, going to disappear into new development, and we're going to end up holding the bag in Ocean Pines, as we typically do when it comes to these things at the county. Thank you.
Yeah, just a follow-up question. Back to financing, I think you mentioned the county would likely own the infrastructure until the bond is paid off. Have you considered, or has it been on the drawing board, maybe a PPP approach, public-private partnership, as another form of doing this project as opposed to going to the bond market and the county owns it for 15 years, then turns it over to us, and looking at advantages and disadvantages of that approach?
I'm not. I mean, like I said, at this point, we wanted to find out to get the project defined. We wanted to see what kind of money we're talking about. We wanted to work with the association and try and see if we can, take care of one of their problems at the same time. But I would expect that the agreement, because this is not an agreement like we had with Ocean City, where it's a municipality and the county. This will be technically a private entity, I assume. I'm not a lawyer, okay, but that agreement will have to be worked out between the two entities, and I'm as long as we're focused on the end goal, I think those agreements can be worked out.
So those discussions are yet to take place?
Have not started yet, but but assuming we get a go-ahead from the association that you are, in fact, you do want to move forward with the project, then we would start those discussions, I assume, John.
So that is one of the reasons we are here today. There had been developments since the last time we spoke over a year and a half ago. We said after the study was done, we would have another town hall, which we did today. But the county is looking to see where Ocean Pines, where we are on this, and obviously is looking for something from the board to see if they're in agreement with this. So that's another reason for this, and to educate the board. I know several of them came up to me asking questions. Okay. Yeah.
Dave Tanner, 65 Skyline Court. You mentioned that the majority of the cost of putting in this system is on the golf course end, and 2.8 million of it. And I'm just wondering, is it because the current system is too old or falling apart, or is this a special kind of system that has to go in that is different from an ordinary sprinkler system?
Well, I mean, I think it's just a function of footage. I mean, we've got thousands and thousands of feet of pipe that will go up here. I've got one pipeline to run from here down to the treatment plant. It's not really that far away.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of footage and sprinkler heads up here, and a new pump for the irrigation system, 2 new pumps for the irrigation system. So a rebuilding of the core irrigation system here.
So it's going to be a standard sprinkler system. It's just that these pipes.
Well, again, I'm sure it'll have the newer thing. They control everything with your cell phone these days. I've seen the guy over at Eagles Landing. Hey, you want to see me turn that sprinkler head on? Watch. And he turns the sprinkler. But I mean, it's all in this day and age. It's only a matter of running. It's all electronically controlled. I mean, you can get that signal across the wire. You can get that signal across the air.
Actually, I've got one of those for my own too.
It's pretty neat stuff as far as an engineer's concerned. It's pretty neat stuff.
Yes, wife's out there working. I can turn the sprinkler system on her. But my question really is, I guess, why do we need to invest so much money in new piping and heads? Why can't the current system handle it? Okay, why 2.8 million? You can put in the electronics, as I did on my system. It's really cheap. But you're saying the cost is in the piping, and I'm wondering, hey, we've got that now. Why cannot the current piping handle it? Is it because you need a special system, or is it because the piping we have now is rusted out or whatever?
Yeah, the piping now, a lot of sections, majority of the irrigation system is original, 50 years old. So a lot of outdated parts. There was some work done probably 20 years ago or so, but it's all very much worn out at this point too. So the new system is going to be able to handle just the pressures better. You're going to see less leaks. Our valves will not be leaking, and you're going to have more control over your system. All the heads in the new design will be thrown like within the golf course property, because now with outdated heads, they come out of adjustment, or you have issues with older heads and spacing the way it was installed. Water could be thrown off property. So we're just trying to dial everything in and gain full control of where the water is going, when it's going there. So yeah, basically just the old system it needs replaced either way, whether we get effluent or not. It will be.
It would be extremely expensive to go in and evaluate each pipeline to determine whether it's still in good enough shape to keep. There's a lot of it that's not in good shape, and we've leaks and things like that in it. The other thing I will tell you is, as a part of this project, the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to approach the state, and we will have to get a groundwater discharge permit. We have a surface water discharge permit down there at the treatment plant right now. Okay, the groundwater discharge permit will say we're allowed to spray on the golf course. It'll tell us what our limitations are. We probably will have to install some monitoring wells to make sure we're not degrading the aquifer over a long period of time. But they're also going to be concerned that we don't want to spray it off-site. We have permission to spray on the golf course. So if you have a 360-degree sprinkler head that goes into someone's backyard, we're going to have to make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, it is an environmental system at the end of the day. And, you know, so those, in addition to his operational issues, we're going to need to make sure that we're in compliance with our permit.
Okay, so the last town hall meeting we had, it is on the website, correct, Josh? Josh will also, at the end of the day, this is all videotaped. This will be on the website also, so there is history for this. We will also, some people did send me questions. We will email them back the answers that the county and Justin put together. And we'll have Josh post them on the website too. And we'll continue to update the website. Any other questions? Amy?
That permit that you mentioned, is that the National Pollutant Elimination System permit? What's the time process for that? Because I've heard that that's a very lengthy process.
I think we're going to use landing in about a year.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, it's not an NPDES permit because National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, it's a groundwater is just a little bit different than a surface water discharge. When you do a surface water discharge anymore, it gets a lot more complicated.
Right, and the timing for this, assuming that we are moving forward, this wouldn't be something that would even start groundbreaking until not this November, the next November at the earliest. Yeah, sure.
The new piping that you're putting in, is it the same materials at construction or is it lined? No.
Yeah, so a lot of the new systems are moving from PVC pipe to HDPE pipe, which is just much more durable material. So a lot of the new system is going to be designed with the HDPE pipe instead of the PVC.
Good.
Okay, so John and Dallas, for next steps from Ocean Pines, you'd be looking for?
Yeah, what would be needed is basically a letter of support saying yes, you're willing to allow us to pursue this project, something that we can have some meat to, so that if we start spending money on design and securing funding sources, that 6 months down the road we're like, oh, sorry, we changed our mind. We want to make sure we have some commitment from Ocean Pines before pursuing it any further.
No, I understand. So I know I have several board members, or we have several board members here. If you need any information or anything else, email me, call, anything now. Okay. Larry.
Larry, for 19, Douglas Ward, I'm also the president of the association. Just want to emphasize that besides the cost, here's the mic, Larry. People TV feature. I just want to make sure so that the community understands that besides the quarterly charge that will show up on the water bill, you're not looking for any money from Ocean Pines for this project, correct? No. Okay.
No.
Anybody? Okay. If not, thank you very much for coming. And we'll keep everybody updated on this project. Thank you.